Hello and welcome to the tennis podcast on what was day 12 of the US Open, but is now somewhere very deep in the twilight zone. It is 3 a.m. We are back at Tennis Podcast Towers, New York, trying desperately to process what we witnessed on the Arthur Ashe Stadium tonight. In short, two mesmerising victories, one for the world number one, Aryna Sabalenka, and one for the 8th seed, Amanda Anisimova. The evening's entertainment finishing just shy of 1 o'clock in the morning when a roll of thunder echoed around the Arthur Ashe Stadium just as Amanda Anisimova was clinching her victory, her dramatic comeback victory over Naomi Osaka. It made the moment feel almost biblical in its heft, and even more so for me once I turned to Matt Roberts and witnessed a face of pure rapture.
What an intro. I can't believe we're here again. Back-to-back Grand Slam finals for Amanda Anisimova. What a night. I mean, we talk about women's semi-final night at the US Open, don't we, being one of the very best tickets in town. And it's actually quite rare that both matches go 3 sets. Both matches have such quality, such drama. It's a very, very special evening. And yeah, get me to the hair salon.
Yeah, it's so special that even the ever magnanimous David Law, whose prediction went down in flames tonight, can appreciate and enjoy it and look back on it, I think, fondly.
Oh, it was fantastic. It was amazing. And actually that roll of thunder was really quite comical. And it was all I could do to stifle the laughter inside, because it was such a surreal situation. You know, multiple match points coming and going for the first time, really seeing obvious nerves for Amanda Anisimova, who had played, well, we'll come on to it, some of the most explosive tennis I've ever seen, and suddenly on her heels a little bit, trying to just get over the line the way you have to do. It's very rarely easy, but yeah, given her journey and your journey, how could I possibly be anything but pleased for you both?
It's so hard. Who on this earth can deny Matt Roberts joy? And by extension, deny us joy, because my God, do I want to go to that hair salon on Saturday evening. And it's a city that never sleeps, so I feel sure we can find a sort of late night. I'm not sure what sort of establishment it'll be, Matt, but I feel like we'll be able to find somewhere.
That'll be all the more amusing if it's some dodgy place.
My thoughts, exactly. We can all get tattoos while we're there.
Oh, there's an idea.
Who knows what could happen?
That's what I was going to do if Osaka went, but not anymore.
There was some suggestion of head shaving, David, sort of Alcaraz style head shaving.
I wanted David to dress up as a Labubu.
Right, okay.
That would have been good.
I could have done all three. In celebration of
learning what a Labubu is.
Well, sadly it won't happen now.
Every cloud, David. Let's get into the match. The most surreal of matches in so many ways. 6-7, 7-6, 6-3 for Anisimova over Naomi Osaka. Let's be honest, lots of this felt a little bit strange, kind of always enthralling, like you couldn't take your eyes off it, but it was bitty for long periods, particularly those that were the first set and a half. Really, it felt bitty, it felt a little bit odd. I felt like first of all, it started late because the first match was a thriller, went 3 sets, then there was a ceremony. And look, it was a Venus Williams related ceremony, so I didn't hate it quite as much as I usually hate them, but there just wasn't space for it in the schedule. Lovely ceremony for Venus Williams. It felt a lot like a retirement ceremony. They sort of ran a retirement VT for her when she's not retiring. But there wasn't space for it there. There was not space. If you want to do that, and I support them doing it, make space in the schedule. Advertise the ceremony at 6:30. Matches to start at 7. Lovely ceremony for Venus Williams at 6:30. Lots of people would have shown up for that. Anyway, the match started late. The crowd thinned out after the first match, a lot of people would have felt like we've had our evening's entertainment, a storm is forecast, suddenly they're rolling out a red carpet, I'm out of here. You know, we've got work to go to tomorrow. So the crowd thinned out a little bit. And it was also, I felt crowd-wise, a little bit strange because they weren't quite sure who to cheer for. I felt like Osaka had the edge tonight, but they didn't want to go too hard for Osaka because that was cheering against the American. Like, it just felt a little bit odd for a long time, this match, I thought.
Yes, and from an Anisimova perspective, she started really poorly. You know, she won the first 2 points, but then she lost 11 points in a row and went down a break and really looked sluggish, I thought. You know, wasn't moving with the same explosive nature that she was against Swiatek, and frankly, she just didn't have her range on her shots. She was hitting long a lot, and very quickly I felt like the sort of pattern, the battleground for this match developed, which was that Anisimova had the far greater potency of strike and greater penetration through the court. I was really struck by how much more she had than Osaka. You know, we talked yesterday about these two players being players that can hurt you off both wings and some of the best ball strikers from the back of the court in the world, which they absolutely are. But it was notable to me, frankly, the quality of Anisimova's strike was so much cleaner and purer than Osaka's tonight, and she was able to knock her back and get on top in rallies. However, she didn't have her range, as I said, so what ended up happening was an awful lot of Anisimova misses and unforced errors in the first half of this match. And that was coupled with Osaka doing some of the things that have been really notable about her run here. In particular, I thought her movement was absolutely outstanding. Once again, getting behind the ball, defending in rallies. And I couldn't quite tell whether Osaka was not hitting through the ball because of nerves, because of the fact that she couldn't, because Anisimova's ball was so big, or as a tactic to let Anisimova miss a little bit, you know, like be contained yourself and let Anisimova miss. I never really figured that out for the match, to be honest. I'm still not entirely sure I have a clear picture of what happened there. But yes, there was just this stress, this tension to Anisimova in this match, which she's spoken about in her press conference. We haven't been to that press conference. We decided we needed to get the media bus, or
we decided we needed to be not stranded at Flushing Meadows all night.
Well, exactly that.
Hoping for an Uber that might never come.
Yeah, so we got the bus, we've read the transcript, and she is talking about stress that she felt and feeling like the match was going to slip away from her for a lot of this because she didn't quite have her game, really, because of nerves and stress. And you could feel that. You could see it on her face, you could feel it in her shots. But she kept digging deep, she kept fighting, and as the match went on, end of that second set, and the third set in particular, I felt like she freed up, and she started hitting just the most incredible shots. Anisimova, she started moving better, and we saw the absolute best of her, but she had to find it tonight. It wasn't there from the start, and that's kind of what made it so fascinating.
On the Osaka of it all, what Matt's touched upon there, the resistance to being aggressive. There were moments where she went for it, and Thomas Witkarowski was encouraging that at times. David, you watched a lot of this on the screen where you had access to what the coaches were saying, which is really useful. But we went to a press conference, we watched the whole match. I'm still at a bit of a loss why she looked quite so contrasting to Anisimova in terms of approach and in terms of power and ball strike out there. It did really surprise me how defensive a player she ended up looking.
Yeah, I wasn't entirely sure in the moment what the tactics were, and I'm still not entirely sure. I did find it very interesting when it was put to her that she and Anisimova are quite similar, and what is it like to play somebody who's an aggressive baseline like yourself? And she didn't agree with that assessment. She said we're total opposites. I actually am often watching my opponent and trying to block the ball back. And I think I see that. It's that get behind the ball and redirect it, especially when you've got that sort of power coming at you. But I think what I was seeing in the first set is somebody who was trying to get a high percentage of her serves in, hit a lot of unreturnables, which she did, make very few unforced errors. I think she got her first 11 returns of the match in off the first serve. That was a stat that came up, whereas Anisimova got 3 out of the first 9 in, and that's why you ended up with that break in the first set. And I think she was trying to play a clean match with very few unforced errors and probably move Anisimova, which is an obvious tactic for somebody whose strength is not movement. And I think that she thought that would get the job done. And let's be honest, on the scoreboard, it very nearly did. She won the first set. She came very close in the second set. And yet I still didn't think we were seeing anything like the best of her. Towards the end of the second set, we were messaging back and forth and saying, actually, not enjoying this very much. This is not the classic that we thought it would be. It's close on the scoreboard. It sounds like a classic, 7-6, 6-7. It didn't feel like one watching it. It was nerve-ridden. It was angst-ridden. And whilst the shot-making of Anisimova was absolutely breathtaking, I thought for the first set and a half it was quite panicky and desperate almost, as though she was just trying to hit winners that are not sustainable. That's what I was watching. I was watching something thinking, I think Osaka's going to win this in straight sets because this isn't sustainable.
And I think she was doing that because the movement wasn't there for that period of the match the way it had been yesterday against Swiatek. She was pulling the trigger. Osaka's talked about that, hasn't she, about how with her improved fitness she's making better decisions on the court. Well, I felt probably like Anisimova was pulling the trigger earlier than was ideal because she knew she was a step slower than she was yesterday because of that stress.
And there was also this pattern that kept emerging for Anisimova where she would break and then just get broken straight back. It happened for the first time she managed to break serve, so she couldn't keep it up. You know, if she did find a nice pattern, it just disappeared as quickly as it came. And that was a lot of credit to Osaka digging in, and you could tell Osaka making such a big effort as well with the body language. Again, it was a frustrating match for both players. You know, it wasn't one where it was easy to give the positive body language, and Anisimova I think found it particularly difficult at times. But Osaka was really trying, but just neither of them could just quite get in their flow. And I think that stat of Anisimova getting broken back so often kind of told a really, really big story there.
But once we got to the end of the second set, it suddenly became the match that I think we hoped for. It became dramatic, it became epic, and then suddenly you had a player just take it away in Anisimova. The shot she hit in that tie-break, I'd have to watch them back to believe what I was seeing. And there was some absolutely incredible stats coming through from the TV broadcast where we had Mary Carrillo, Chanda Rubin and Andrea Petkovic, and they'd got stats on the Anisimova backhand, which obviously we constantly talk about, but they've got statistical evidence to back this up, that her average backhand speed for the tournament was 77 miles per hour, and that is the fastest in the tournament, man or woman. And that the next one is Sinner at 76, and below that is Alcaraz at 73, and Sabalenka's at 71. So she's hitting an average speed of 77 miles per hour.
Get that on a T-shirt, Matt.
It's unreal.
It's extraordinary. And in this match itself, she was hitting the height. She was at average 76 miles per hour to Osaka's 61. You know, this is the differential. And I did feel, and I think we saw Osaka try to correct this as it went on. She didn't go for it enough. She didn't go. I know it seems like a massive power differential, and I think there is a power differential to some degree, because I don't think well, you see the stats there. Nobody hits the ball as hard as this woman is hitting the ball. But I don't think Osaka was meeting fire with fire. I think her tactic might have been a little different, but mainly I think she was shocked. Even though we watched back the highlights of 2022 Australian Open, and
Matt does that every day, David.
It was a great watch.
We just joined in this time.
We joined in.
It was as though I'd edited the highlights.
Yeah.
Because it's mostly just Anisimova hitting winners. But Osaka played well in that match.
And Osaka had talked then about how fast the ball is coming through at you. I think 3 years on, she was shocked again. I think even though she knew that, it was still a shock to the system. And a very good point made by Andrea Petkovic in the commentary early on is that she just hasn't played any player remotely like that in this tournament. She's played Daria Kasatkina, a nice, slow-balling, spinny player. She's played Karolina Mukova, who's all style. She just hasn't played that type of player. Coco Gauff is not a power hitter like Anisimova or Sabalenka or Rybakina. So the ball, I think, just took her by surprise, and she was getting forced back and becoming a little defensive, and yet she still nearly won. And I think a lot of that is just how nerve-wracking it all was. I wrote down towards the end of the second set, because I really did think it was ending in 2, Anisimova is kind of the better player stroke-wise, but Osaka's head and movement are going to win this. And the fact that Anisimova stopped that happening is a testament to just how incredible her shot-making was. 50 winners from that racket tonight.
And there was so much that she was dealing with that just even a few weeks ago I feel like would have derailed Anisimova or would have risked derailing Anisimova. And she's kind of confirmed this in the press conference by talking about how different a player she feels even since Wimbledon. She says, I feel like the last few weeks it's been a different feeling. I feel like when I was at Wimbledon, every single match was kind of a surprise to me. I was shocked with every match that I won. But here, I feel like I believe in myself. And I feel like that manifests in, the very fact that she won this match. We didn't believe, did we? Not even Matt, but we all thought, even when I think it was on serve, sort of 2/3 of the way through the second set, we all thought it just felt like it was ending in 2. And somehow she turned that ship around, and the crowd were cheering against her. She did not have the crowd tonight. An American in a semi-final of the US Open, and okay, it's Naomi Osaka, she's an exception. It's not personal, etc. But we've seen how a crowd can get to a player, in Naomi Osaka in Montreal, like that could very easily get to somebody. The speed with which Naomi Osaka was playing, Anisimova was being rushed getting into the return position. There were actually quite a few times when she held up Osaka inadvertently, just because Osaka was wanting to play so quickly. It was kind of remarkable. Matt kept on remarking on it in the first set, and we couldn't quite tell whether we were just sort of more dialed into it tonight, or whether she was deliberately maybe deploying that as a tactic. And then there was a very bizarre moment where she received a time violation.
Like, the shot clock was barely starting for most of her points. She was so quick, and it to me it did feel like some kind of tactic to just keep the pressure on, not give Anisimova breaks, bits of recovery. But then, out of the blue, she suddenly ran the clock down, Osaka, and got a time violation. It really did surprise me. And, yeah, I find it pretty extraordinary that Anisimova has gone from the level she had at the start of the match to the level she had at the end. Like, that was kind of the worst version of herself right at the start. Sluggish, as I said, not really in control of the ball. And by the end, I know there were nerves in that final game, and she double faulted on a crucial point at the end, and it did seem like maybe Osaka was going to get it back. But through most of that third set, she's just had total control of the ball and what she was doing, while also hitting the living daylights out of it. And Osaka said that it was kind of amusing at times. Like, how is someone able to strike the ball like that? And I just don't think Anisimova of certainly a year ago, even back in the previous part of her career where she was reaching Grand Slam semi-final, and I just don't think she was able to turn matches like that. You know, you kind of knew what you were going to get in an Amanda Anisimova quickly. You know, like you knew what you were going to get in one of her matches, whether it was going to be, oh, she's got it today, she's feeling it, or she doesn't really have it today. But that resilience that she's built up this year through so many matches, and now she's got the belief of beating Sabalenka in a Grand Slam semi-final, overcoming the double bagel demons against Swiatek. It has created this player who's capable of doing what she did today. And David, I know you were more across the exchanges that she was having with her team, but I liked the sound of those as well when they were telling her, stop complaining, stop getting so down on yourself. Like, Osaka's played a good return game there. Like, you've got to accept that and lock back in. That dynamic seems like it's working as well with the team, and yeah, it's all come together, and here we are.
Sounds like they're not afraid of her. They're not afraid to tell her the truth.
No, I think that's right. That actually, Anisimova reminded me a lot more of Sabalenka tonight, both in terms of the way she went about playing, because normally I think of her as a more reactive player because she's got such smooth strokes. She doesn't need to muscle the ball and go after you in quite the same way. She can almost just retaliate and destroy you. This time she was trying to take the racket out of the hand of Osaka the way that Sabalenka does, but then she was also getting really wound up the way that Sabalenka does when it doesn't go in or when the scoreboard goes against her, and she was looking for a fight really with a support team. I mean, it's venting, isn't it? You understand it, they understand it, but they weren't having it, and they just wanted her mind to Rick, her coach, just said, stop trying to pick a fight with me. You know, focus on the next point. Stop complaining. Let's go. Get on with it. You know, it's kind of, she's played a good game. It's fine. And look, that's exactly what happened. And she went out and did the job. And I dare say she loves them to bits because they're telling her what she needs to hear properly, even if it's not very nice in the moment, for the best reasons. And I just can't think of too many players that have gone for it quite that much over such a long period of time and kept on pulling it off. It was Wawrinka-like, if you think about it, the way he did it against Djokovic in that French Open final. It was like Madison Keys-like, the way she just wrestled matches out of
It was Keys,
Swiatek and
Australian Open.
And it's that sort of firepower we're talking about. What a night.
Yeah. I just can't believe that losing a Grand Slam final 6-love is probably going to end up being the making of her. You know, there's a lot more to it than that, but I really do think that we're seeing a woman that has turned that into a positive.
Well, there are
quickly.
More parallels with Keys there, aren't there, really?
Absolutely. You know? These are well-adjusted people with perspective on themselves and the sport, and I'm in awe of her. It's the most incredible story. Continues to be. It's very, very emotional.
Bit worried about the turnaround, personally, just because it's such a lot, isn't it?
Yeah, and she spoke at Wimbledon, didn't she? I know that she's sort of, in the weeks that have passed, admitted to nerves a lot more in the final there at Wimbledon, being the big factor. But at the time, she spoke a lot about exhaustion.
That's the bit I'm worried about.
And that's the bit I'm worried about. You know, this is 2 matches in a row that have just taken a lot out of her, I think maybe some of the reason for the slow start today was all the emotions of yesterday and overcoming Swiatek. Well, okay, she's got the day off, but it's going to be an incredibly late finish. She's going to be thrown out of her rhythm, and she had to dig, in her own words, so deep tonight. Like, somehow, some way, she's going to have to be able to find that again, because Sabalenka was bloody good today, bloody impressive, and she's as determined to end this season with a major title. You know, like, it's going to take all that Anisimova's got, and if she's diminished in any way, I think it's going to be very, very difficult. So that element is a big one looking ahead to the final, I think.
But then the fact that she's been through it before so recently helps massively.
Yeah, I think so.
I mean, just the way she was talking in press, you know, she said, I've deleted everything from my phone. I've quietened all of the messages. I'm locking in. I know it's a tight turnaround. I'm gonna be in it this time. I'm gonna be in it. So we'll see. We will see. We need to talk about Sabalenka. We will do that in part 2. Before that, though, we want to take a quick moment to throw forward to next year. For anybody thinking of taking a big tennis trip in 2026, we certainly are. A few of them. There is no one better to organise a tennis-themed trip of a lifetime for you than Steve Fergel's International Tennis Tours, who, of course, have been a long-time partner and supporter of our show. They can provide packages at all the world's biggest and most fun tennis events, including one of our absolute favourites, probably David's number one favourite, Roland Garros.
Yeah, I can confirm that now. After all these years of not going, it's the one.
It is the one for so many people. It is such a special event, and whether you want a single session ticket or an all singing, all dancing travel package, Steve Fergel's have you covered at one of the most beautiful and electrifying events on the sporting calendar. If you want to book a trip to Roland Garros in 2026 with Steve Fergel's, they can sort out VIP hospitality, Category 1 tickets, plus an optional add-on to really make it a trip of a lifetime. Wait for this, a cruise down the Danube from Budapest to Giurgiu. Yes, please. If that sounds good and you want to check out what Steve Fergel's have to offer, just head to toursfortennis.com/podcast to find out more and book your trip. Welcome back to part 2 of the tennis podcast, where it's now after 3 o'clock in the morning. How are we doing?
Great. Pumped.
Great and pumped. Me too.
Do we think Aryna Sabalenka is asleep?
I blooming hope so.
She beat Jessica Pegula in a thriller. 4-6, 6-3, 6-4, 2 hours and 5 minutes. This one moved along at a clip as well. It really was a scintillating match. The first match of the night, of course. And it is Aryna Sabalenka that reaches a 3rd consecutive US Open final and a 6th consecutive hard-court major final.
Yeah, I enjoyed this match a lot more, personally, and I think it was a higher quality all the way through, much cleaner match, a lot fewer errors, less anxiety on both sides of the net, I thought, and actually just a really interesting kind of narrative behind it all, because obviously they'd played in the final a year ago, and Pegula had led in the sets, and it was really close, but there were 2 sets, 7-5, 7-5. This time she goes 4-2 down, and it really feels as though, wow, Sabalenka's power is just too much. And then she just threw in a terrible game. Sabalenka, awful, loads of errors, gets broken back. Pegula wins 4 games in a row to win that set 6-4, and it was just really interesting to watch her go ahead in this match, and to think that, wow, you know, she could be about to take out the world number one and I wonder whether Sabalenka, having had a walkover in the previous round, maybe he's coming a bit undercooked here into this match, whereas Pegula's just timing the ball beautifully. And then in both sets 2 and 3, Pegula just went an immediate breakdown, and that was her problem. She was playing really well. Sabalenka was a little in and out in terms of the shots, but when she really needed to step on it, she just got what she needed.
Yeah, I mean, I feel like this match came down to one loose Pegula service game at the start of the 3rd set. I don't think she lost a point on serve after that. She lost 4 points in that game to lose serve, didn't lose a point on serve for the rest of the set, whereas she was constantly putting pressure on the Aryna Sabalenka serve. I know that's reductive to say that it came down to that one game, and tennis just isn't as binary as that, but this felt kind of as close to isolating it down to one game as you possibly can, really.
Charlie Eccleshare from the Athletic said that Sabalenka's performance in that third set was like watching vintage Pete Sampras, because he would sort of just not give away games, but he wasn't winning points on loads of return games, but he'd get one and then he'd serve it out. Have
you got a sort of human Google alert set up for when somebody you know references Pete Sampras?
Absolutely. I'm there in a second.
It's very often Charlie Eccleshare.
Yeah.
We bond over Pete Sampras.
Well, I think Pegula absolutely perfectly summed this up by posting a picture of herself drinking what I think is a honey juice with the caption, "When you lost 4 points on serve in the third, but you lost the match."
Right.
You know, like,
come on, we know a honey juice when we see one.
Yeah.
That's a honey juice.
I see the melon balls.
Hand carved, those. Have you seen the video?
I've not.
Every single melon ball is hand carved. That's why they cost $24. Get a machine to do it. Reduce the price.
She also came into the press conference with a lollipop, which I think was, again, something to just try to cheer herself up a bit.
So, look, I thought Pegula did a brilliant job in that first set of passing. I mean, Sabalenka found herself at the net quite a lot, and Pegula was whipping passing shots past her. She also did a brilliant job of just redirecting the Sabalenka pace and absorbing it. She was hitting the ball sweetly, Pegula, really high quality. Sabalenka, I thought, did a great job at the start of the second set, just changing it up a little bit of variety, threw in some drop shots, helped her get that early break, and kept her emotions in check, Sabalenka. You know, we've seen her play a lot of big matches this year where stress has overtaken her and her game has suddenly disappeared. I thought she was teetering at times tonight. She was on the edge, but she stepped up when she needed it, and none more so than in that third set, because having got the break right at the start, what then happened was every single Sabalenka service game was just a mini battle within the overall battle. It was absolutely astonishing. At 2-1, 3-2, 4-3, and eventually then at 5-4, Pegula was applying so much pressure. She was just in every single return game, putting returns back on the baseline and forcing Sabalenka to come up with her best stuff, and she did. She played world number one tennis when she was down, Sabalenka, you know, whether it be with a huge backhand or a huge serve or whatever it was. She just stepped up, and I'm not sure Pegula did a lot wrong on those break points and on those mini chances in all those service games. Sabalenka just steadied herself and delivered in a way that a lot of times this year we've seen her not do that in the very biggest matches. But it was a reminder of when the full force of her tennis is on display, she's the best in the world. You know, she can overwhelm you with power. She's a brilliant mover, and when she brings it all together, it's kind of like, what can the opponent do? And that was my read on that final set, because I thought Pegula was brilliant, other than just that loose service game at the start. But she did everything she possibly could to get back into it, and Sabalenka just would not allow it. It was so compelling, this match.
It just on the movement of Sabalenka, we watched actually midway through the Anisimova match. Matt wanted to provide evidence of the best forehand slice Anisimova had ever hit. Dropped a little YouTube link in the chat.
He did that just because I dared say that I'd seen the best forehand slice she's ever hit, and within half a second he got evidence of why that wasn't the case.
Not creepy at all to have that at your fingertips, Matt. Don't worry.
So he'd even got the timestamp.
So there we were sitting in the media seats, and I was watching a highlights package of Anisimova against Sabalenka from 2019 Australian Open. And obviously I was watching out for this incredible forehand slice, which was indeed incredible. It was just sort of lofted and dipped onto the sideline
for
a winner. But I was absolutely dumbstruck by how different as an athlete and a mover Sabalenka looked compared to then. Just the way she stalks around a tennis court now and looks so nimble is just worlds away from what she used to be. I know we're always saying it, but she's just so much more than a power hitter. And just on power hitting, it's almost become a bit of a cliche in tennis, you know, Pegula's deceptive power. She's more powerful than you think she is. You hear commentators say that a lot, and they're absolutely right. She is more powerful than people give her credit for generally. And I thought this was as good a piece of evidence for that as you'll ever see, because you have the barometer of power. You have the direct comparison to Aryna Sabalenka, and okay, she was kind of absorbing the Sabalenka power too, but she was pretty much matching her. And I think a lot of it with Sabalenka is the way she produces her power just sort of blinds people, to the other dimensions of her game, but also to how she doesn't totally sort of stand apart in women's tennis. And that really struck me tonight, watching from where we were watching, that Pegula was kind of matching her stroke for stroke.
She was using her against her and timing it back. Her timing was immense, wasn't it?
Refusal to be pushed back from the baseline. Not many can do that. Can really hold their ground on the baseline. That takes power and core strength, but also dexterity to make the micro adjustments. She's a lot more than people give her credit for, I think, Pegula.
And that's one of the fascinating parts of the final matchup that we've got, because Anisimova can do that as well to Sabalenka. When David talks about Anisimova not necessarily going out there and completely sort of dominating players with her power, but sort of using it back on them and turning it back on them, that's what I think she does so well against Sabalenka. She uses Sabalenka's pace and injects her own into it, and Sabalenka is rocked by that. And
it's like an experiment to see what you can blow up.
Right.
I mean, I am fascinated by her tactical approach in the final in that regard. Does she go out and try to do what she did tonight and just seek and destroy, or does she settle back into that belief that she can time it?
And look, we've been talking a lot about the Sabalenka return, you know, maybe not quite being at its peak at the moment. And that is potentially something that you look at in that third set that she played tonight against Pegula. I know she got the break at the start, and I know in that sense it kind of was classic Pete Sampras, get the break and then just hold. But she got nowhere near the Pegula serve for the rest of the set. She lost 16 points in a row on return, Sabalenka.
Wow.
And I don't think that she was holding easily enough or confidently enough to just be tanking those return games.
Oh no, she was desperately trying to win those points and just not managing it.
Right, and that I think is a bit of a worry for Sabalenka going into the final. Like, because Anisimova, everyone is saying it, pretty much as dangerous a returner as you can possibly get. Like, she is going to have looks at the Sabalenka serve. She's going to be hurting it with her own return. So Sabalenka needs to be getting into the Anisimova service games herself. And there will be times probably when Anisimova's not serving her best and Sabalenka will be able to get into them. But if Anisimova can get in the kind of serving rhythm that Pegula was in, like, Sabalenka's going to have to step up on her return game. I know she was generally brilliant tonight, and I thought she made a bit of a statement because she was really impressive. But that is still an area where I think Anisimova going into this final will be feeling like she might be able to exploit.
She has to serve well, Sabalenka, doesn't she? I mean, Anisimova, she's just crushing second serves.
Yeah, off both wings.
Yeah,
you know, if you
there's nowhere to go.
No, if you most people's stock second serve is into the backhand. You can't do that, so they mix it up. But then she's able to just shuffle around it and hit a big forehand as well. Like, it's a problem. It's a big problem.
It's a great final, isn't it? I know we were in a situation where we'd be saying that regardless of what was set up tonight. We were in a good position. There were no bad scenarios. It's all great. Whoever wins, it'll be a great story, a great champion, but I really am excited.
Well, the good news is typically their matches are really good. Even the one-sided ones are really fascinating because you've got two really pure ball strikers, and they just match up well. I think it's a great sight seeing it's a little Sinner and Alcaraz like seeing these two incredibly imposing figures with such enormous power colliding. It's like a Marvel final.
Do you think it's going to happen, Matt?
I do. I mean, I thought it was at Wimbledon as well. But
You might have been in the early stages of a fever at that point.
Thank you.
We can introduce that onto the record.
What's your excuse this time?
Well, it's 3:30 in the morning.
Look, I think the thing we just talked about, the recovery from this tonight, particularly for Anisimova, is going to be a lot. But I don't know, there is kind of more of a Madison Keys feeling about this, right? You know, she's just come through two incredibly tough matches. We were saying that about Keys, you know, can she do it again in the final? And Keys had previous experience, and Anisimova's now got previous experience, and I think that's all helpful. I think Anisimova's best tennis wins it.
I don't think Sabalenka can do to Anisimova what Swiatek did on a grass court, and with her movement and with the angles and spin. It's a more straight up and down game.
Also, don't think Anisimova's going to be paralysed the way she was at Wimbledon. Look, I'm not saying she's going to come out not feeling any nerves and tension and being free as a bird, but it's going to be a different player.
And also, look, maybe Sabalenka comes out and plays an extraordinary match, but Sabalenka's not got the finals record that Swiatek has. You know, like, Sabalenka gives you games. She throws in a bad game or just lets you get a little bit of momentum, lets you settle, I think, in a way that Swiatek just absolutely did not, with her absolutely ruthless, brilliant performance in, well, all of her Grand Slam finals, but particularly that one, of course. So just think the matchup is helpful.
One more important question before we move on to look ahead to tomorrow, and look, there'll be more time to preview the women's final in tomorrow's show. But will Bruce come?
We're doing our best. I don't quite know what that is.
What is our best?
We're sending texts to people with more influence. We're manifesting.
Both sort of spiritually and practically.
We're hoping.
I'm not sure I think we're even more than 3 degrees of separation
we're
from
so
Bruce.
far
we're
away.
So far away.
He has been to
If
the US
anybody
Open.
out there has any strings to pull,
It's the only way Saturday can get better.
They come from the same place. This is why it should
Freehold,
happen.
New
come
Jersey.
from Freehold, New Jersey.
Okay, right. Gotcha.
Yeah. That's why he needs to be there.
It would be the coolest.
Oh, it would be awesome. I mean, it's not going to happen, but it would be incredible.
If we can't get Bruce there, will Jeremy Allen White come again?
Probably. He seems to have a season ticket.
Fake Bruce. Yeah, he's been 4 days in a row. He cannot get enough. Look, maybe they could come together. They've got a film to promote. Bruce has got an album to promote. This is win-win.
It is.
Taylor Swift managed it last year.
Exactly.
Please happen.
She had to watch Taylor Fritz. Bruce could watch Amanda Anisimova from Freehold, New
He'd be like,
Jersey.
she didn't even know who I was 5 years
They could
ago.
play Jersey Girl. Oh. Okay. Everybody collectively manifest. That's it for part 2. We'll be back in part 3 to look ahead to tomorrow's men's semi-finals. Welcome back to part 3 of tonight's tennis podcast. Had the men's doubles semi-finals today as well. The men's doubles final will be between Marcel Granollers and Horacio Zeballos. They beat the unseeded American pairing, ended the run of Robert Cash and JJ Tracy, and Grenada Zabayos will take on Joe Salisbury and Neil Skubsky. They beat Yuki Bambry and Michael Venus. So that men's doubles final will be Saturday. The women's doubles final is tomorrow, ahead of the two men's singles semi-finals. So the women's doubles final starts at midday. On Ash, it is Katerina Siniakova and Taylor Townsend, the top seeds, taking on the third seeds, Gabby Dabrowski, Matt's favourite doubles player, against Gabby Dabrowski and partner Erin Rountcliffe. Then, not before 3 p.m, it is Novak Djokovic against Carlos Alcaraz. What's going to happen?
Do you know, we watched some more highlights earlier today, or I did anyway, repeatedly, of the Australian Open match that they played. What is it now? It's 8 months ago. And I was astonished at the level of play that Novak Djokovic found that night to mount his comeback. You know, it's very easy to forget just how good he was and how difficult Alcaraz found it to hit through him. And he was turning the tables on him. So it really did give me pause for thought. And the fact that it's a 5-3 head-to-head record for Djokovic, and he's won the last two, I think. Certainly the Olympics and the Australian Open. I think it's a big mental challenge, this, for Alcaraz, to not worry about any of that and bring out what he's been doing for the last kind of 10 days onto the court. But I think he will. And I think he'll win in 4.
Matt?
Yes, I feel the same as David, really. I think Djokovic can hurt Alcaraz, he can spook Alcaraz a little bit, and I think there will be real moments of stress here for Alcaraz. But ultimately, I think he'll come through. I think the tennis he's been playing, the way he's been serving, and just honestly, like, his general physicality over Djokovic right now, like, I think the route to victory for Novak Djokovic just feels like it's going to be something like in Australia. Like, if that doesn't happen again, I don't really see how Djokovic wins. Like, I don't think he can outplay Alcaraz in 3. I don't think he can beat him over 5. Maybe he could get him in 4 if Alcaraz loses his head a little bit or something like that. But I think Alcaraz has got more paths to victory here. Really don't want to make it sound like the US election, which I realised I just did a little bit. But that's my feeling. I think Alcaraz finally is going to get a win over Djokovic on a hard court.
I think this could feel a little bit like Sinner's victory over Djokovic in the French Open semi-final. 3 competitive sets. Djokovic playing really well, but ultimately just being overwhelmed, and Alcaraz being dialed in throughout and being a better player when he is than Djokovic.
Sinner made it feel like actually the game has suddenly moved on a bit in those matches that he played at the French and Wimbledon, and particularly because Djokovic actually played well in that French Open match. But we haven't really seen Alcaraz do that to him apart from in that Wimbledon final, and I always feel like there's a little bit of an asterisk because Djokovic had just had knee surgery. So he kind of needs one of these. And really, I feel like the level now, the way he and Sinner have separated themselves, it should be there. And given what we've seen so far, I believe it is.
If he can't do it now against Djokovic, you know, months older than he was the last time they played on a hard court. He's 38 now. And with Alcaraz, as I say, you know, I think he's been rehearsing for this match all tournament. As dialed in and playing as well as he's ever been, certainly on a hard court. If he can't do it now, then when?
Yeah, that's fair.
Night session, 7 p.m. Jannik Sinner against Felix Auger Aliassime. Do you think if you polled the Arthur Ashe Stadium tonight, 24,000 people, anybody would have predicted a Felix Auger Aliassime win? Can anybody provide a modicum of hope for Paul Felix?
No paths to victory.
Yeah, I mean,
I'd be astonished.
I think he's got more chance than Mazzetti had, but Mazzetti was so overwhelmed last night that, I mean, having a better chance than him doesn't sound like the greatest compliment in the world. Listen, I think Felix had a brilliant tournament. I still have just in the back of my mind what he did to him once before, but it's so long ago now that I can't really see it. I mean, at least he's got weapons. He has got a big forehand. He has got a good serve. I do wonder what would happen if he could keep it close in order to grow into the match. But I suspect it's more likely that he'll just go a breakdown very early on, and then it becomes really tough to get into the match at all.
Is the single most likely scenario that it's a blowout, like a real blowout, like not competitive?
Yes, I think there might be a competitive set. I could see like a 7-5, 6-2, 6-2, or something like that.
Maybe a couple of competitive sets. I fear the first one might be one-sided because suddenly Felix is just faced with Grand Slam Jannik Sinner, which is a formidable, frightening prospect.
I just don't think there's anything that Auger Aliassime does better than Jannik Sinner. I would not trade a single Auger Aliassime trait for a Sinner one. There was a quite a good moment in the Felix Auger Aliassime press conference a couple of days ago, which I was in, when he was asked to explain what's different with Sinner now from when he faced him those years ago when he beat him, and he just went through this shopping list of things that he's improved. Basically everything he's changed for the better. And fair play to Felix, he had he was smiling by the end of it as well. We were all giggling because it was such a long list, but he's well aware of how good this guy is. Yeah, like if he has a phenomenal serving day, Auger Aliassime, and he can keep sets close, as you said, we've still got this. I'm not even sure if it's a thing anymore, but the Sinner not winning long matches thing is still there. But like, how do you get it to the 3-hour 50 mark? Like, I would still be backing Sinner if we got to that point, but I'd be astonished if we even got there. But it's
only Alcaraz gets in there,
right? Like, that's a tiny, tiny thing that he might be able to latch onto. I just think Sinner is going to overwhelm him. And look, Auger Aliassime is playing a lot better than he was a few weeks ago, but he lost 6-love, then he won 2 games, then he lost 6-love again to him the other week in Cincinnati. It was as one-sided a match as you can get, and I just think Sinner targets that backhand, the ball speed that he's got. This is sounding really depressing for Auger Aliassime. He's had a brilliant tournament. He would have absolutely signed for this every single time, but I think this is one-way traffic.
It's the end of the road. Well, continuing the theme of today's podcast, go with God, Felix. Folks, that is it for today or tomorrow or this morning, whatever this is, whatever time of day you call this.
I call it 20 to 4.
Yeah, wild times here in New York, but fun times, definitely fun times. Hello to Phoebe, my mascot. Hello to Maisie, David's mascot. Hello to Roger, Matt's mascot. There was an extraordinary moment when we arrived in the lobby about an hour ago. The universe sent me a dog. One just miraculously appeared with its owner in the lobby, and like it had been possessed,
broke free of the owner.
It sensed my presence.
Went hurtling towards Catherine.
It was remarkable.
It was.
It was like Carlos Alcaraz running into the arms of one Carlos Ferreira.
But I didn't even give this little dog any encouragement. It just looked at me and it knew.
What's special?
It was a real meeting of minds. So sorry, Billie Jean and Phoebe for cheating on you, but I needed it. It was lovely. Hello to our top folks and executive producers, Greg, Chris and Jeff, and particular hello to Chris, because Chris brought us snacks when we most needed them.
He just appeared.
He appeared.
Like an angel.
Yeah, truly. Oh, continuing the theme again. Truly like a snack angel.
Yeah.
Sort of won all in the deciding set.
Yeah, like
of the second
it was
match.
late.
12:30 in the morning.
We were stressed. We needed snacks.
They were both sweet and savoury snacks. It was
incredible.
And then poof, he was gone. Truly like an angel. Chris, we thank you. Greg and Jeff.
Angels too.
Angels too. We are part of the Athletic Podcast Network. Folks, thank you ever so much for listening. We'll, of course, be back tomorrow or later today or whatever it ends up being to talk about those men's semi-finals, look ahead to the women's final on Saturday and bring you up to date with Operation Bruce. We'll speak to you then.